Shadow of the Erdtree was one of the best DLCs I've ever played, and I want to nerd out with you about the experience here in the video. DLC is kind of great because it's always made for the core audience who appreciates the game. It doesn't have to worry about prospective players. It really just gets to build something with the fans in mind. The studio has already got their pipeline dialed. They've already made an entire game, so they can just focus on polish and making the best experience possible. And having a smaller scope, right? Usually DLC is smaller, even though Erdtree is huge. It's like its own standalone game. It's not the size of Elden Ring. And so the content that is there is so good. And man, it felt like the perfect blend of old school Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, like tight, polish, linear stuff done well in a tighter contained experience. And what I mean by that is like Elden Ring was great, don't get me wrong, but the open world had so many of the caves that were just very samey, right? Very copy-paste feeling where you get to the end of the cave and it was just like, okay, what boss am I going to get for the item, right? Shadow of the Erdtree felt like you were just always using the open world to get to the next incredible legacy dungeon and then incredible boss fights. Oh, I don't know why this game is comforting. It shouldn't be, because it's just viciously, painfully difficult, but there's still reward present there, and I think that's really cool. I did see a lot of the commentary online. Anytime a FromSoft game releases, there's a lot of discussion about difficulty and accessibility. I don't even want to wade into that pool of nonsense. So many journalists were writing pieces day one about the mixed reviews on Steam, being like, oh, players are review bombing it because it's too difficult. And it was pretty much mostly performance-related complaints when I was looking through the reviews about the update, because it did impact performance for a lot of systems. But everybody loves to spark the controversy, get the easy headlines, and talk about the difficulty side. I think it was perfect. I think it is a great challenge with a lot of accomplishment behind it, and you can tailor the experience to the difficulty you want. This is what's so cool about Elden Ring in general, and Shadow of the Erdtree enhances it with so many more pieces of great equipment and talismans, awesome weapons and different builds to where you can make the experience as tough or as easy as you want it to be. You know, the final boss was very difficult, but I also went in with co-op summons and saw what a crazy giant shield hyper armor build was like. They didn't dodge roll. They just, with crazy high poise, were able to shield through everything and poke the boss down. Now, is that a super fun play style? Probably not for me, but for them, who cares? Like, that is what is so unique. You can cheese so many of these bosses with crazy builds and all sorts of things, or you can go in naked and dodge roll everything, soloing the boss and conquering that massive achievement. That's what I'm walking away from Erdtree going, I can't wait to go back through, and there's like 3 or 4 of these bosses I need to land and do it better. I got to play with Diddy last night. If you've watched the channel for a long time, yes, Diddy from Destiny the show, Halo legend himself, and we went through one of the bosses co-op together. And it took like 9 or 10 attempts, but it was so rewarding to do that experience and to reconquer a boss that on my first playthrough, I really had to rely on others. It's cool. You can tell I'm pretty amped on it. Now, the artwork in Shadow of the Erdtree is phenomenal. The music, the sound design, the new weapons, it's so rich. And the bosses themselves are really cool. There's a few that make me want to pull my hair out and probably never touch again. But you know what? I'm going to go back, I'm going to level up, and I'm going to get stronger. I'm always reminded, you just don't grow in the comfort zone. Anytime you're pushed outside of your comfort zone, anytime it's kind of sink or swim, you're forced to improve, you're forced to grow. And even if you fail, it's not actually losing, it's not actually a failure. Only if you give up is it a failure. And I think that is just what is so unique about games, especially games like Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree. So many of these bosses kicked my butt over and over again. And you may go online and look up strategies and tips on how do I do this. You know, most other games are going to teach you like really cheesy ways to beat them without trying. Now, Elden Ring The guides and the tips, the how to beat them videos are literally showing you the moveset of the boss so you can study it, so you can learn, so you can beat them with your own skill. I think that is absolutely fantastic. Now, they could have, with this expansion, it's like almost big enough to make it its own standalone thing. Like I said, it's not going to take you a crazy amount of time, but it's also not super short. But if they were to just like slap it on a box, say Elden Ring 2, fans would be like, no way, this is too small in scope, this isn't the size that it should be. And that's why DLC is so cool. They don't have to pad it out with a bunch of fluff to hit some arbitrary metric. I think expansions are so cool in that way, and give players the chance to see something that a studio would probably never get to make otherwise. Shadow of the Erdtree only works in the sense that it is an expansion to Elden Ring, a game that was massively successful, that was big, that did do a good job of bringing in new players to the franchise. It's like the end of this mega rabbit hole where you get to experience the developers' like super vision for the game. I also was thinking about this. In real life, if any of you have done group projects in high school or college, or if you're working on a collaborative project at your work or your job, you will know that when there's too many cooks in a kitchen, nothing really gets done, or the stuff that does get done isn't that great. Design by committee generally stinks because it's almost always people trying to make everybody happy, to make decisions that will appease pretty much everybody in the group. I think that perfectly sums up a lot of games and media these days. Everything has a focus group. Everything is trying to appease the widest audience possible to make the most amount of money. But when you try and do that, you pretty much make nobody happy. And I think you usually, not always, but you usually end up with a product that's pretty mediocre. And I love that Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree just made the game that I think Miyazaki really wanted to make. He wasn't concerned about appeasing the publishers or marketing agendas or any of that stuff. When you have somebody at the top of a project who's willing to take a risk, who's willing to obviously listen to community feedback, to their stakeholders, their designers, but who's willing to, ultimately rely on their creative vision, to take a risk on that, it could really pay off. And I wish more media was doing that. I feel like so many of the studios, at least in game dev, and especially in Hollywood, are so risk averse right now that they're not taking creative chances. Yeah, there's a strong chance that you could make something that's a strong flop. But I'd rather have a shot at something great, a creative masterpiece, rather than something that is just mediocre, that appeases a big group of players. If you're watching this video at the time of release, I highly recommend picking up Elden Ring right now on the Steam Summer Sale. Usually FromSoft games don't get discounted that much, and it really didn't for this sale. I think it's like $20 off or maybe $17 off. Very well worth it at that price. And if you enjoy Elden Ring, absolutely pick up Shadow of the Erdtree. This was an incredible last few weeks playing this expansion, and I just hope others can enjoy it as well. If you're playing it or have any interest or anything in the video sparked something, I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. I also want to just say thanks. The channel has had so much support and love the last few weeks. I'm very appreciative, so excited for all the new subs, all the new people, and just really thankful for the opportunity to be a part of this cool community. I'm going to keep trying to make chill videos about gaming topics and just real life stuff. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you again very soon.